Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3679 AN. Today's date is July 3rd, 2025, and the title of the episode is Trump Was Right, the Economists Were Wrong, Everything is About to Change. You know what's interesting? If you think your 401k is safe, growing, and reliable, well, here's the truth. The 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was built to shift risk onto you, leaving your retirement exposed to Wall Street, crashes, inflation, and chaos. That's why thousands are moving into gold. Noble Gold helps Americans roll over part of their 401k into real physical gold. Tax advantage, penalty-free, and shock-proof. Get your free wealth protection kit now at x22gold.com. That's x22gold.com. Take back control before it's too late. And here's a bonus offer. Get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at x22gold.com and they'll send you 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins free. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, they tried to stop Trump from making the economy great. And they put certain traps into place because they knew what Trump was about to do. So they began with, hey, look, egg prices are very high. We had Biden say, look, I'm handing off to you a very strong economy, which he knew it was very, very weak. Actually, if we go back in time, the economy was most likely in a recession. And what Trump is doing right now, he's bringing us out of this recession. And they had the Fed say, hey, listen, we dropped the rates a couple of times during Biden because, we're political. And we're not going to do it for Trump. So they tried to put all these things into place. And then we had certain events like Moody's where they said, they're going to downgrade the United States. Then we had the Iran event and they thought oil was going to shoot up. Inflation was going to go skyrocketing. That never happened. But the Fed, they're still holding strong. And all the economists from the fake news propaganda outlets, they were all out there saying, oh, these tariffs, they're going to hurt the jobs. Tariffs are going to make inflation. Tariffs are going to do this and that and the other thing. And everything that they said has not come true. Actually, the opposite has happened. And everything that Trump is doing is turning out to be true. So Trump, he went ahead and instead of killing all the chickens over the fake bird flu, he decided, let's let them live. Let them produce eggs. And you know what happened? The egg prices started to drop. And they dropped and they dropped and they dropped. And the fake news, the deep state players, the economists, they didn't really care anymore. Trump kept reminding them, look, I brought egg prices down. But they didn't care. And remember, eggs are used for a lot, for baking, for cooking, you name it. So that's why they went ahead and they went after the eggs. Yes, they were using the bird flu, and yes, they had other agendas associated with that. But what's very interesting is that Trump, he put out a truth, and he's referring to a Waffle House post, and it says, excellent news. As of June 2nd, the egg surcharge is officially off the menu. Thanks for understanding, and this is coming from the Waffle House. So egg prices are down. There's no longer are people going to be paying a surcharge, which means people are going to be saving money. Trump, he responded to this and said, we brought the price of eggs back to what they were supposed to be. When I took over on January 20th, the fake news was screaming that egg prices have gone through the roof, quadrupled, they said. Now they're plentiful and inexpensive. Thank you, President Trump. And you can see right there, that entire narrative completely and utterly fell apart. And we can see the job numbers, they are off the chart. All the economists were wrong. The expectations were wrong. And the BLS, they published a blowout report in June. The U.S. added 147,000 jobs, blowing away the median estimate of 106,000, a higher than upward revised May print of 144,000. Remarkable, in a dramatic change from the Biden tradition, previous months were revised higher. April was revised up by 11,000, from 147,000 to 158,000. And the change for May was revised up 5,000, from 139,000 to 144,000. If you remember, during Biden's time, they would revise these numbers much, much, much lower. Trump, the opposite is happening. Why is that? Think about that for a second. Plus, they were expecting an increase in unemployment to 4.3%, and the Fed recently revised their numbers to 4.5%. So we went from 4.2%, not to 4.3, not to 4.5, but to 4.1. the opposite direction of what the Fed said and what the Economist has said. Once again, Trump is showing the people, the Fed, the Economist, the fake news, and the rest have no idea what they're talking about. And you could see what Trump is doing right now. As he's deporting all the illegals, as he's removing the jobs from government, he's replacing the jobs with native-born Americans. And Wokeness put this out and said, most important data from June, 830,000 new jobs for native-born, 348,000 jobs lost for foreign-born, 437,000 gain of new full-time jobs, 367,000 loss of old part-time jobs. Major reversal of the Biden era. And that's exactly what Trump is doing right now. Everything now is turning around. And the economists, the deep state players, and the rest, they've been all wrong. But you can see the fake news. They're trying to convince everyone that Trump's tariffs aren't working. Even though you see unemployment coming down, inflation coming down, fuel prices coming down, there's no inflation on the tariffs that he already implemented. So they're using, of course, Mark Cuban's luxury dog bed company, where they're saying, hey, it's impossible to actually produce this luxury dog bed for $250 or less. And you have to remember, actually what they're doing, they're showing you how the central bank system actually breaks down over time. If you can't create a bed for a dog under $250 and you only can do this overseas, this tells you there's something else wrong. It tells you that the central bank has caused all this. So actually what they're really doing is they're actually showing the people the problem in this country. Now, of course, the fake news like Reuters, U.S. News World Report, and Fast Company, they put out the same exact story. And you could see that this entire company was backed by Shark Tank, by Mark Cuban's venture capitalist company, and they just couldn't find a manufacturer that could produce it under $250. Now, again, when you go back to the source of the problem and you start to look at why that is, it goes back to the central bank. As the currency declines in value, what did the deep state, what did the central bankers have to do? They had to move the manufacturing out of this country. They needed to find really cheap labor. They needed to find a place where there's no regulations whatsoever, where they can make a full product. And this way, the people in this country, they wouldn't realize that things were changing because remember, there were loopholes, there were no tariffs, there was nothing to bring those products back here to this country. Let's talk about protecting our wealth. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risks onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, uncertainty you can't control. Until now, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect their future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit x22gold.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's x22gold.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. And here's a bonus offer. Get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at x22gold.com and they'll send you 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins free. That is x22gold.com or click the link in the description. And remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind. So basically what he's showing you is that, hey, look, the central bank caused this problem. We can't produce here. Maybe we need to look at why that is. I think this is going to work in the opposite way they're trying to put it out there to convince people that manufacturing can't be done in this country. Because, again, we have to ask the question, well, why can't you do it? What's the problem? Why can't you find a manufacturer that can manufacture it very, very cheaply compared to Vietnam or China or any other place? And then people are going to say, well, the labor is really a lot cheaper there. There's no regulations over there. And people are going to end up going, well, this all leads to the central bank system. And like we said from the very beginning, the economists, the Fed, everyone was completely wrong. They kept telling the people the tariffs were going to cause inflation. The tariffs were going to hurt jobs. Tariffs were going to hurt the economy. Well, it seems that none of that is happening. And the Fake news, The Economist, they're all wrong. Trump is right. Patriots Are in Control put this out and said, Trump is right, The Economists were wrong. Here's an article from CNBC from April 8th of 2025. It says Trump tariffs job market impact mostly will be negative, economists say. Today, U.S. payrolls increased by 147,000 in June, more than expected. New York Times, going all the way back to 2024 February. Trump's tariffs hurt U.S. jobs, but swayed American voters, studies say. New York Times today, jobs report live updates. U.S. hiring remains solid as unemployment rate falls. And this goes on and on and on, which tells you that they are completely and utterly wrong about what they were forecasting. And this is what people are seeing. Remember, you don't have to take Trump's word for it. You'll feel it. You'll feel the economy start to do really, really well. And remember, just yesterday, Trump let us know that he made a deal with Vietnam. They've opened up their markets. We're going to be charging them 20, 40% tariffs. And actually, Trump did one other thing with Vietnam, because you have to remember, China likes to use all these different countries as backdoors to avoid tariffs. And you know what Trump did? When he made the deal with Vietnam, he took away China's back door. So this way they can't evade tariffs. So he took away the de minimis loophole. He took away their ability to take their products and move them through Vietnam and then into the U.S. And he's going to do this with every single other country, which means the deep state, the central bankers, the globalists, they're in trouble. China is in trouble. And as Trump does this, China will have to say, okay, we give in the end. Now, they made a deal right now, but I do believe Trump is going to make additional deals as we move forward. And we're going to see the entire landscape of the globalist system completely and utterly change. And we're already starting to see the beginning effects of it. And we could see that the deep state players, the central bankers, the Ds, they use the Congressional Budget Office to convince you that Trump's bill was going to add to the deficit. It's going to be a complete and utter disaster. And what's very interesting is that there are flaws in the CBO. And actually, I do believe it was designed to keep anyone from actually cutting taxes the way Trump is cutting taxes. Because you have to remember, the central bank system and the way the system is today, they need to take your wealth every step of the way. And if we get rid of the taxes, what happens to the central bank system? What happens to everything? It falls apart. So I do believe this is why they created the CBO, and this is why they created the calculation, and this is how they can manipulate everybody. So the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, tasked with providing objective, nonpartisan information to support the congressional budget process, estimated that the Senate version of the GOP's reconciliation bill would add $3.3 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. The President's Council of Economic Advisors, the CEA, on the other hand, estimated that the bill would reduce the deficit by $4.5 trillion. The dramatic discrepancy between the estimates from the CBO and the CEA stems largely from differing assumptions about what counts as expected future policy, known as the baseline. CBO relies on a current law baseline, which assumes the key provisions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, will expire. In contrast, the Trump administration and some fiscal watchdogs favor a current policy baseline, which assumes those tax cuts will be extended, as they often are, and therefore does not treat the extension of the 2017 Trump tax as new costs. Remember, when you cut taxes, they say this adds to the deficit. This adds to everything. While CBO is statutorily required to use the current law baseline, supporters of the current policy baseline argue that this approach is fundamentally flawed. And it is flawed, as we could see today. Russ Voss put this out and said, some perspective as we complete Senate passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. The same game is being played by the so-called fiscal watchdogs to mislead the public by not assuming the continuance of current tax law. Remember, those saying that the Senate bill increases deficit are comparing it to a projection where spending is eternal and tax relief sunsets. That is a leftist presupposition, and thankfully the Senate refused to let the bill be scored that way. The Senate bill does include more tax relief than extending current law, and more than the House, but it is paid for by the $1.6 trillion in savings from spending reforms in the bill. It was also done to provide more certainty to businesses and respond to the same critics who were saying the sunsets were artificial. More to come tomorrow, but this bill reduces deficits over the next 10 years. Even if you ignore increased revenue from dynamic growth, and importantly, the 1.6 trillion in spending reductions exceeds the framework agreed to prior to final passage of the budget resolution with Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. So basically, they were basing this on a manipulated type of calculation. And again, this is how they've been doing everything. Because again, what do they want to do? They want to make sure that no one takes this approach, no one goes down this path. And this is why they manipulate the unemployment numbers. This is why they manipulate inflation. This is why they manipulate GDP, because they have to keep you in this illusion. They don't want the system to end. The central bank doesn't want the system to end. So what do? They put in roadblocks to make sure that you can't end the system. And this is what Trump now is doing. He's an outsider. He doesn't care about their system. He wants the people to regain the power, to regain the creation of currency, to regain everything that was taken away from we the people back in 1913. And I do believe that's why Trump has been hitting the Fed so hard, because he's showing the people of this country and of the world the Fed doesn't work for the people. The Fed doesn't do anything in the best interest of the people. And Trump continually says the Fed is too late. This is what he put out on Truth. He said, too late, should resign immediately. And he's pointing to an article that says Fed chair should be investigated by Congress. So right now, we have Fed Powell. He lied about the renovations. Trump now is pointing it out. Everyone's pointing it out right now. And Trump is continually saying, resign, resign, resign. How much you want to bet eventually what's going to happen? Powell will probably end up folding. And as this information comes out and how he lied about the upgrades to the headquarters of the Federal Reserve, I wouldn't be surprised if he says, okay, you know what? I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. And once again, Trump is going to show the people of this country that the Fed is corrupt, the Fed is not working in the best interest of this country, and the Fed eventually must be removed. And we can see that Trump and his plan is now moving forward. We've already seen that the Economist, the Fed, they've been lying to the people for a very, very long time. Tariffs do not hurt the economy. Tariffs do not shut down employment. Tariffs do not cause inflation. Tariffs are a benefit to the people. And remember, this is the beginning stages of Trump's plan. He's going to wean us off of the Federal Reserve. And this is going to continue. Remember, you can't do everything at once because the entire system would implode. Because again, you need the funds from the taxes to fund the government. Can you imagine if he just shut it all down and relied on the tariffs right now? There wouldn't be enough. So you just can't switch it over just like that. What you have to do is you have to build the income that counters the income that the Federal Reserve is taking in. And that's the internal income from we the people. Trump is creating the external income and he's building it up, building it up. So eventually what will happen is we will then start to transition away from the Federal Reserve slowly but surely. But again, the deep state, the central bankers, the fake news, along the way, they're going to try to convince you that what Trump is doing is bad. Just like they did in the very, very beginning. Oh, tariffs are going to be bad. It's going to hurt jobs. Oh, tariffs are going to cause inflation. Tariffs are going to do the. They're going to do it continually until we are weaned off of the Federal Reserve. Because, again, they don't want us weaned off the Federal Reserve. They want us with the Federal Reserve where we have to continually pay more and more taxes. Trump now is removing us from the old system and creating a new system. And we can see that we are definitely on our way because the big, beautiful bill just passed. And this is just the beginning. I mean, look, he couldn't throw everything into this. He needed to do it in stages. And he did this as a reconciliation bill because he knows that he wouldn't be able to get the 60 votes right now. Remember, we only needed something like 51 votes instead of the 60. But I do believe the next part of all of this is going to be when we get control of the House and the Senate. And remember, Trump needs to show the people that everything that he's doing with the economy is improving the economy that we're in today, improving your lives every single day. And he has to show everyone, and people must feel it, because when we approach the midterms, people must understand that he did the opposite of what the D's have said, what the rhinos have been arguing about, what the Fed has said, what the fake news has said, what the economists have said. Because when you make the economy great for the people of this country, and people are getting high paid jobs, and they don't see inflation, and fuel prices are going down, and people don't have to pay taxes on Social Security or overtime and taxes on tips and things like that, people feel good. And when you start to see the economy really start to take off, just like it took off when he came into office in 2016, by 2018, people are like, holy crap, this economy is pretty darn good. We're all feeling good. I love the low fuel prices. This is amazing. There's a lot of jobs out there. This time around, take what you felt back then, multiply it by 1,000, because that's what people are going to feel in the end. And as we approach the midterms and you see all the jobs, you see energy at the lowest that we've ever seen it. When you see there's no inflation, when you see there's billions upon billions of dollars coming into this country, when you see Trump paying off the debt via the gold card, who do you think people are going to vote for in the end? They're going to vote for Trump, even though he's not running, but the people that he's endorsing, they're going to vote for them. And what's going to happen when we have control of the House and the Senate? What can Trump then do? He can move forward with the plan of removing the Federal Reserve. He can move forward with the plan of auditing the Federal Reserve. He can move forward with the plan of bringing us back to the Constitution, because people are going to see that everything he's doing is absolutely working. And what are the D's going to say? What is the fake news going to say? What are they all going to say? They're going to have a lot of trouble convincing everyone that it was better the other way. Now, the only thing that they can do, as we've been talking about, is have some type of event, if they have the power and the ability to do it, because you have to remember, Trump has been cutting off their funding via Doge, and we can see that the deep state players, the central bankers, they're having a very difficult time. But again, they could try some type of invisible event, like a cyber attack, like we've been talking about, and they could try to shut down the economy, just like they did back in 2020. But I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they're prepared for this, and this time Trump has the power because he has a lot more time. He has the people behind him, and I do believe by that time, he'll have his parallel economy up and running, functioning, and it will match what the central bank is doing today. So would we be able to recover from all of this? I think very easily. Now, there might be a time where it looks scary, like, oh my God, everything's falling apart. But I do believe Trump, he's expecting this, and he's going to use this to his advantage and eventually use it to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.